Figures of Speech, Part 2. Figures of speech are rhetorical devices or linguistic techniques that add flair, emphasis or depth to language, often by altering the usual meaning or arrangement of words. They are commonly used in literature, poetry, speeches, and everyday language to create vivid imagery, evoke emotions, or convey complex ideas more effectively. Here are 10 more figures of speech. 1. Allusion, a figure of speech that refers to a well-known person, place, event, or literary work, often to convey a deeper meaning or add context to the current subject matter. Example, he was a real Romeo with the ladies, alluding to Shakespeare's character Romeo to describe someone as romantic or passionate. 2. Synecdoche, a figure of speech in which a part of something is used to represent the whole, or vice versa. Example from Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Explanation, in this line from Mark Antony's speech in Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 2, ears represent the audience's attention or willingness to listen, emphasizing the importance of their engagement. 3. Metonymy, a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is substituted with another closely associated word or phrase. Example from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. The pen is mightier than the sword. Explanation, in this phrase, the pen represents writing or communication, while the sword represents violence or warfare. The use of metonymy highlights the power of words to effect change. 4. Paradox, a figure of speech that appears to be self-contradictory or absurd, but upon closer examination, reveals a deeper truth. Example from 1984 by George Orwell. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. Explanation, these paradoxical slogans from Orwell's dystopian novel highlight the manipulation of language and truth by the totalitarian regime, demonstrating the inversion of reality for control. 5. Anaphora, a figure of speech involving the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses or sentences. Example from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Explanation, the repetition of "it was" at the beginning of each clause emphasizes the contrasting conditions of the time period, creating a rhythmic and impactful effect. 6. Epiphany, a figure of speech in which a sudden realization or understanding dawns upon a character or person, often resulting in a profound change in perception or perspective. Example from Ulysses by James Joyce. Mr. Leopold Bloom ate with relish the inner organs of beasts and fowls. Explanation, in this moment, Bloom experiences an epiphany about the interconnectedness of life and death while eating a hearty meal, leading to a deeper understanding of existence. 7. Allegory, a figure of speech in which abstract ideas or moral principles are represented through symbolic characters, events, or imagery, often to convey a deeper philosophical or moral message. Example from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Aslan, said Lucy, you're bigger. Explanation, Aslan, the lion, represents Christ in Christian allegory, and Lucy's observation of his size emphasizes his spiritual significance and power. 8. Assonance, a figure of speech involving the repetition of vowel sounds within nearby words. Example from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary. Explanation, the repetition of the long E sound in weak and weary creates a melancholic and mournful tone in Poe's famous poem. 9. Consonance, a figure of speech involving the repetition of consonant sounds within nearby words. Example from Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. Explanation, the repetition of the D sound in lovely, dark, and deep creates a sense of tranquility and finality in Frost's contemplative poem. 10. Symbolism, A figure of speech in which an object, person, or situation represents or stands for something else, often with deeper cultural, religious, or allegorical meaning. Example, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Explanation: The mockingbird symbolizes innocence and purity in the novel, as seen through characters like Tom Robinson and Boo Radley, who are unfairly persecuted despite their goodness.